Hey guys, how are you doing? How is everyone? So I tried live streaming this yesterday, but I was having some internet issues. Hopefully, we don't get the same issues. You can find the link in the chat for what we are going to be doing today, and I'm just going to rush through this so that we don't have the same issues we had yesterday. And if you have any questions, you can just ask. Let me reduce the sound a bit. But yeah, so basically this is what we're going to be doing here. This kind of cookie animation. It was requested by Ahmed Majd. Hope he's around, but if he's not, we'll just find the playback video, VOD video later. So yeah, this is what we're going to be doing. You can just wipe that. I don't know how to expand this without just becoming full screen. Yeah, so let's get into it. We can find some cookie reference images. I think this is very simple and very basic, so yeah, let's get started with it. I'm just going to set up the lighting and everything. Let me first turn on random colors here, cavity, arrange. So let me create this lighting or background. Just going to extrude this, select that, bevel that. So this is going to be our background. I just need to work on the lighting. Let's see, what should we add here? I don't think any of these is necessary just yet. But in the world settings, I want the environment lighting to be dark, so I don't want to have any lighting from the background. And then I want this to have that reddish background color, so I'll give it that, and maybe reduce the roughness just a bit. Select my light. I want it to be a yellowish light like that. Increase the strength. And maybe what I can do is also just use a wider focal length. Now let's work on the cookie. That should be quite simple. Can just add a circle, and instead of filling this using F to get an endgon, if you hit F3, you can get this search button, this search bar, and find grid, which lets you fill the grid with these kind of squares or quads. Sorry. And the reason why I'm using that is that they give us a better topology than just using than just having an endgon or triangles for our mesh. So let's take a let's go back to the reference here. So we can use a displacement modifier. Let me just use this here as my reference image. So I'm just going to make sure I'm saving here. Call this cookie. Hello Techno, how are you doing? Great to see you back. So yeah, we're going to use this cookie. Let me bring back my reference image. Just drag, drop like that. And see, there's nothing special about this. So I'm just going to extrude this using E, shade smooth, and add a subdivision surface modifier like that. Okay, see, having some sharp edges here, but that's okay since we're going to be using a displacement modifier to displace everything. So we can add the displacement modifier, go to the textures and create a cloud texture. Then we can go to the, first apply the scale, reduce the strength. Now before we even do that, we can add a smooth modifier so that we get much smoother mesh. So let's see. Maybe we can even add a subdivision there. This will kind of round the shape just a bit more. Then we can add the subdivision surface, and then the displacement. Just going to increase the viewport here to 2. Just play. We don't want too much displacement in this. Most of it will be done using the bump as displacement using the nodes here or in the material. So now let's create a procedural texture for the cookie. We need a high resolution image for this. Okay, this is really high. Something. Okay, I need to replace my batteries here. Give me a moment. Hello, Espa. Okay, let me replace my batteries here for my. Okay, good. Okay, so yeah, this is a good reference image. So let's just use this so that we can get those texture details. So we're going to use procedural texturing here to get that material there. So let me maybe bring this into our scene. I think we need another light in front here. This time it's going to be an area light. We can try using the disk shape. Maybe reduce, give it a custom distance so that this light doesn't affect too much the backside. Okay, now let's work on the procedural textures. Let's start by working on the noise on these cracks. So I'll create a new material, and the cracks, what I'm going to do is start with the noise texture, noise texture. We're going to go through these different noise patterns and see what gives us better cracks. Will this be in the archive for later watching? Yes, it will be. It would be a Team Lindbergh. Thank you for being around. Yeah, it will be available. So we have this noise, and we can also try Musgrave, see the kind of pattern that we get from that. Let's see what other kind of noise we have here. I think these two can give us better results, good results for this. So if I add a convert color ramp here to get some contrast in here, just want, let's see, let's try this with this here. Just bit of experimenting. Okay, okay, you can see that they're being squished at around this side. That could be as a result of the scale we have for this object, but to get rid of these being squished here, we can just add texture coordinate mapping and change from generated to object, so that the scale, there is no stretching from any direction. Maybe this can be okay, so this can be our cracks, but let's see what do we get with this noise. Sometimes you can also experiment with just having some of this detail connected into the noise, just to see how things look. Sometimes you can get procedural texturing is about experimenting, a lot of experimenting. Sometimes you get results you didn't expect, which I think this is not too bad as well. We can use this somewhere. So let's start fitting these into different areas. Let's use a vector bump map. So this is cutting out, is pushing out instead of pushing in. So we need to invert this. So I'm just going to add a color invert here to invert those there. Maybe have larger cracks. So these are going to be our larger cracks, but they are too smooth. So what we can do is let's get this. So this is our what we have. We can use a noise texture. So texture, noise texture, and subtract it from this. So I can add a convert math node. Let's preview this. Let's try subtract. Let's can go in and add a color ramp here, or instead of a color ramp we can use a math node. Convert math, the operation of power, so we can control the noise. I think this is going to give us better cracks, as they make it makes it the crack fade in instead of being continuous. Like here, you can see all these cracks are connected. That's not what we want. You can see these cracks start breaking up in some areas. They are non-continuous. So this crack comes from here. Let me just get it comes from here, and then it fades into this side. They are not, you can see, maybe this is a good example. You can see this crack ends here. Another one. They're not continuous, super continuous as these. So adding a noise and then breaking them apart like that, yeah, gets us to this. And now we can control, we can use the scale here to add some detail into those cracks as well. So you can see now that they're not super smooth as we had them. You can even play with the detail here to make them super smooth. You can play with the distortion a bit like that. Yeah. If we use this now, you can see what we get. Again, we have this stretching going on, and to get rid of that, we just need to use object coordinate mapping instead of generated. So I'll just connect this into there, and that should get rid of the stretching on the side here. So let's see what we have here. It does seem that we have a lot of details coming in. That don't seem to be visible here. So what I'm going to do, I don't want, I just want to have only the large cracks, not the small cracks. And see, I don't want these small details in there. So what I'm going to do is add, let me just grab these, extend them here. I'm just going to add a convert color ramp here, so that I can start cutting off some of the detail that is coming in. Just can see by just adding the color ramp there, we have already started cutting out a lot of noise that was coming in through there. That, which is great. And we have those cracks. Now we also need the larger cracks or larger displacement detail. Maybe try and scale it and rotate it. I'm not sure what you mean. So we want to also bring in this other detail. Okay, I don't like this, so I'm just going to, I just want some bit of noise. I shouldn't be distorted at all. Again, I don't want it to be stretched here. So again, I can use this vector input we have to get rid of that. So we can mix these here. So I'll just add a convert math node to mix the two. Okay, this color ramp here is cutting off a lot of detail that I want. So what I'm going to do is mix these after that color ramp. See what we have now. So it seems that this noise might be a bit too large, or too small. So let's have something like this. And what we can do is now use what we have here from the normal to colorize. For the base color, to colorize that. So this, and if you have the normal input, you can separate, I think it's under convert, you can separate the RGB. So bring this, it's convert, separate RGB. Future, thank you. How's your day? And the reason why I'm separating the RGB from the normal is that let me just clear the rotation for this object so that you can see what I mean. I want to get the pointy parts of this mesh. And before I even do that, let me make sure to apply the rotation of this object so that I can easily know what I'm talking what we have here. Actually it's non-separate RGB. It's supposed to be separate X, Y, and Z from this vector, because the normal map just gets the color information and the height information and changes it into X and Y values that it uses to displace the mesh. So if you have the separate X and Y, you can get the position of different vertices and convert them into a mask. And you can see if I add a color ramp here, I can get the, I don't know if I'm explaining this better. Let me show you what I mean. Promise Namereno, your top channel one-on-one. Can't believe how much I look forward to your videos. Thank you for that. Thank you. So what I'm trying to do here, let me get my pen tool, is this surface here, or this mesh, is in this shape. So this is the kind of cross section of this shape, and what I want to do is to get the tips, just the tips of this surface area, so that I give them a different color. And what I've done here, it's like getting the pointiness of the mesh. And what I've done here is the bump map or the normal map has that information, but you can't really just access it directly. So what I did is this information, the high position of these points here, is stored in the normal map as X and Y values. So what I did is separate that information into X and Y values so that I can just find the Z values, and I can use this color ramp to isolate the pointy parts of that mesh. The issue is it doesn't isolate all these sides, because their normals are pointing the opposite direction. They're pointing this side instead of that side. So the best way to do that without using this would just to use the input geometry info, and use the pointiness map. Yes, see if I can find it. This pointiness map, but the problem is it doesn't work with Eevee. You have to switch to cycles, and it would give you better results than what I'm trying to use here, and it will also give you these back details. So the problem is that if I try to do this while live streaming, my OBS would really be laggy. I'm not sure. Okay, it seems to be okay here, but again, I want to work in cycles in Eevee because it's much faster than Eevee. So that is why I'm approaching this this way, and we are going to get nearly the same results. But for you can just use the pointiness node instead of Eevee. So I want those points. So let's just let's start coloring, giving these some color. So the points are going to be browner, or washed out like that, and then we can have sampling different colors here. also have this car ramp, colorize it as well. Okay, so we can't see the details very clearly here, so what I'm going to do is add a math node, change the operation to power so that I can make the details more pronounced. These are supposed to be our cracks, but I think we are losing a lot of detail with this car ramp, so I'm just going to remove it for now. Not sure why we have very little information from this coming in from here. So these are our cracks. We invert them here, and I think that's where we are losing a lot of information. So let me just, instead of using that, let me just use a car ramp and use the flip node here. Basically give me the same results as what we had, but now I can make them more pronounced. Let's preview that and see. Doesn't look great, but that's okay. We're still improving on this. Let me first reduce the strength here just a bit. Now we need some noise detail, so I'm going to bring in a texture, the noise texture. Just give it some color. Scale it down for those smaller details. Just start. Something like that. Now we can blend it over this detail here. So color makes RGB. Now we can use the overlay for this. So let's try multiply. let's switch this around and see. Just need to get our colors right. So I'm just making sure to add a little bit more details, smaller details into this noise. Now we can also use these for the roughness. Make sure to add a math node to control the roughness and make it so that it's not too reflective. So we can control that. And what I'm also going to do, these are my cracks, my major cracks. I can just blend them into the final color. And make the cracks a bit darker. So I just need to change this to multiply. So that my cracks look a bit darker. Just have that connected in. Now you can see that the middle area is a bit less saturated than the outer areas. So for that we can use a gradient. So I'm just putting a texture gradient. A gradient texture. But the type should be spherical. Yeah, spherical. Now we just need to position it in the right area. We can use UV projection for this, so that it's easier for us to move this around. So I'm just going to go out to the top view and use projection mapping, projection from view, and let's go to the UV here. So usually the gradient is centered around here. So if I scale this up, then the gradient will be in the middle. So what I was saying here is this, that the center of the gradient is usually at this corner here. So if you move, so our UV is usually centered in the middle here. So if you want the gradient to be in the middle, you'd have to also move this UV there and scale it up, and then the gradient will appear in the middle like that. Now we can use that other mask to create this transition from these more brown areas to these whiter areas. We can also use a convert power node, math node with the operation of power, to make the transition more less gradual. We can also change, if we add a convert column in the middle here, we can change the interpolation to something more faded like that, or maybe let's try cardinal, something like that. And now what we can do is add a convert color ramp. Just make this way browner and sample the color. Just make it a bit browner, and then the middle like that. And we just have to blend it with the rest of the shader. Now you regularly live stream, yeah, I do regular live stream. I'm Abdi Sup. So we can blend this gradient with this here. Just need to play around with the blending modes to see what works better. Now we can have this in here, connected here. So this backside looks a bit darker because of the gradient we created here. But I think we can just look at this gradient here. Okay. Okay. Let's just look at this gradient here. I'm not sure what's going on. Why is this happening? Okay, so this back side is a bit too dark, so I'm just going to do something like this. You know what? I'm not sure about this here, so I'm just going to delete that. Maybe even remove this node completely and see how things look without that. I think we need to work on the mesh itself. I think the cookie is starting to look better, but we need to add more geometry to this so that we get more details in the mesh. So I can subdivide this. No, I think we might need a new displacement material here. And we also need some of that small noise detail into this noise map. Okay. And before we do that, let's first work on the final mesh here. So I added a second material. I think if I add, let's play with the contrast of this noise here by turning on the car ramp. Just going to create another material here, another displacement texture. This time let's try a different type of noise. Let's try this. And just make sure this the strength is not high enough, is not too high. And what we can also do is add, because you can see some of these, the mesh is starting to intersect with itself. So what we can do is add a smooth modifier. Let's see. I think there is intersection here, but I don't think that's too much. But around here, before this second modifier, and that should reduce on the on the intersecting. I like it before this smooth. I think we can add the smooth after that, so we can remove the intersecting vertices. Now, if you want, you can also scale this in the middle. A bit like that. Let's see. I will add the chocolate beans later, after we make the animation and everything, so that we know where to attach them. I don't want to spend too much on the texturing when this is mostly the animation we want to look at. So let's try. And I think what we can do is break up this gradient a bit so that it also has some detail in it. Make sure this. So what I want to do is to break up some of this material here. So I'll just add a texture, noise texture. And then add a math node again, convert math. And just here. You can play maybe with something like that. Now what? I think we want details in everywhere, so something like this. Yeah, Ahmed, thank you. Yeah, I think you're the one who requested for the tutorial. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, let's get into the animation a bit, the animation bit here, and see how things go. So let's take a look at the animation for a second here. So it splits in the middle like that, and then you have these cookies flying everywhere. So let's start with that animation. So I think what I can do here, we would need to apply most of the modifiers. Let's see. Or split this into two. I think the best way we can approach this by using a plane like this. Use a knife tool to cut out where the crack is going to go. So I want this to be our crack. So I can just select that, then delete all the other edges. I can extrude this up. We're going to use booleans to cut through this mesh. By the way, Ahmed Abdullah requested this tutorial. If you want to make your own request, you can just go over to Discord and request tutorials also. So we're going to use this for the... Yes, I noticed that you're using a different name for this code. Yeah, we're going to use this for cutting through this, and we need this to have some volume. So I'm just going to go to the add and solidify modifier. This make sure that it has a very thin thickness like that. And then I can select. Then we can add the boolean. The boolean modifier. Select this as the object, and you can see we have our cut. Now we might need to apply all the modifiers we have here, but if I do that, I'm going to duplicate this and make a backup copy of it there, so that if we need to go back to change anything, we can just go back to that. Now we can apply these modifiers, and an easier way to do this is by just using Ctrl+A Visual Geometry to mesh. That should apply all the modifiers you have. And now we can add the boolean, bring back our object, boolean object, select that, and let's see what we have. Let me change the boolean into a wireframe so that I don't see, we still have this line going through here, which I want to get rid of. Let's first reduce this offset. I think we can just delete that manually. Let me just apply the boolean, and let's see how we can get rid of that. Okay, I think let's try a different way. Before we apply the boolean, let's try giving this a separate material. Sometimes that material can be applied to the insides of this mesh after we apply the boolean. So let's do that so that we have a way to select those inner faces that are added, and yeah, use them to separate the mesh. I want to find out a better way to get rid of this inside seam at that crack area, those connected faces easily. So let's try this and see. Now I can just select, yeah, I think this is far better and far easier to do like this. So just need to select. Now we have the entire crack selected, so I can delete it. Okay, is it deleted? Okay, it's not fully deleted for some reason, so I would have to go in and start deleting those seams directly, because we want two areas. We want this section and this section to be separate. Hello Luke Raymond, how are you doing? I wish there was an easier way to select this seam here, but let's just try hiding this side so that we can easily select the faces here that make up this cross section. You can delete those. Unfortunately, I can't just speed this up since this is a live stream, but yeah, so you'll have to bear with me on this. So let's select all of this. Will I use the explode modifier? I don't think it will work nice here. It will work well here. I might use the rigid body system to have this explode. I need to fix a few issues here. Just mind this. And instead of doing this bottom side, I'm just going to use the mirror modifier for that, so I don't have to worry about that side. And if you turn on bisect, we can get rid of any polygons that are intersecting. So I'm going to turn on clipping and bisect. So another thing I want to do is separate this side here, okay, which seems like it's still connected, maybe here. So okay, yeah, I want this side to be separated from the other side so that I can explode them like that. But also I want this edge here There is a plugin called Self Fracture. It's very good for cracking, for the cracking animation. I don't think it can make animations. I know the add-on you're talking about, but I don't think it would be. It would just break this into lots of particles, lots of shapes, and you don't have you don't have control over the final shape of the crack, which I need to have here. So I need to do the same thing for this side here. Let's extrude down. So this area needs to be cleaned up a lot, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. Actually, if I just add that, it can look a bit better. Now, if we have this face the camera, you can't tell that there is a crack. Now for the animation, what we can do is let me just show you one more time what we're trying to create here. So let's see. This explodes like that. It's a very basic animation. And I can use rigid bodies for this here, for the explosion here, because they usually give you better results than hand animation, and they're also quicker to set up. So if I select these two, give them a few keyframes to begin with, then I can have them like that. And the reason why I'm going to use also want them to use linear animation. Maybe this shouldn't intersect with this too much. So we're going to use, so we give them this initial animation, and then use the rigid body for the rest of the animation. So just go into rigid body and that animate this animated property. So it starts off with the animation, and then we take those keyframes off. Same with this, starts off with the animation keyframes, and then we switch that off. Great, so let's see. And then they fall. But we don't want them to fall through the ground. What we want, also make sure that this is a rigid body with a type of passive. If you see that the meshes, the objects are flying away from the scene, it's because of the collision shape we have for this object. So we need to change it, because right now the collision shape of this object, because it's using the convex hull shape, the collision shape is like this, which means that these objects are inside this shape, and now they are being ejected out of the shape. So if we don't want that, we want to use the collision shape of mesh so that they collide with the object. I'm also going to just recalculate the origin, which messes up the animation. Okay, so we need to first remove these keyframes and reset the origin. What is this? I see what's going on. So I also need to apply the mirror first, then we set the origin. Now I can add the animation I want. So something like that. But around here, I want to animate this keyframe property off. Okay. That there is that kind of push of this mesh. It's also a result of this collision shape. So if we change that to mesh, we shouldn't see that. It will be a bit slower, but that's okay. I think I need to prove. Maybe let me add in some environment lighting for this. So yeah, that actually makes the cookie even look better. Let me just reduce the strength just a bit. Okay, this is what we have. Now the problem is that they're just falling down. So what we can do is go to the rigid body system. And turn off gravity so that they just this just floats around like that. And let's see, what do they have here. So I think now we can add in those palettes, those chocolate palettes. Those should be simple. We can use, let's see, cube, give it a subdivision surface, apply that, maybe add a second subdivision surface, apply that. Then we can add, what should we add? We can add a displacement modifier to displace apply scale, just give this a, just play with the shape of the noise, and let's try a different kind of noise. And the reason we're doing this is to get some interesting shapes for our this chocolate stuff. How can you animate the animation slow down in the end? I'll show you that in a second. Let's have some contrast. So that's going to be our chocolate bits like that. The material for those should be very simple, just chocolate color, and just make it reflective, and that should be enough. Oh, very nice trick to the animation. Thank you. Techno, how can you make the animation here? I'll show you that. So now what we can do is place them on different areas on this here. So we're going to use the hair system or particle system to place these around. We need about, we don't need many, and we can go to the render settings for the particle and switch from path to object, select our object. You can see now they are nicely placed. Just need to play with the randomness, and maybe turn on advanced so that we get the rotation randomness here. Something like that. We need the same for this here, so it should have the same particle system. Thick particles look good. Thank you, Techno. So let's see the animation one more time. Okay. You can also see a thin layer of chocolate around the seams there, so we can also do that. So for that, I'm just going to first isolate this, then select this inside mesh, let's grow the selection, so something like this. So this is going to be our layer of chocolate. So Shift D to duplicate it, and then P to separate it into its own object. We don't want it to have any particle system, but we can give it a solidify modifier to give it some bit of thickness, just like that, and maybe a smooth modifier so we can smoothen, round off those edges a bit. It doesn't need to be a rigid body, and shouldn't have any animation keyframes. You can just parent it to the other object. There's a thin layer of chocolate. Turn off these keyframes. And you should have the chocolate material like so. If you want, you can give it some displacement as well, so that it looks, so that it's not too uniform like that. But maybe let's do that. Since we already have a noise texture, displacement textures already, we can add any of the ones we have. We can also make sure that it's above. It doesn't even matter. So we want it to be parented to this side. Control P to this, yeah. Okay, we're having a few issues here. Let's see. These particles are floating in the air for some reason. Let's see. Okay, I'm not sure why. I think what is happening here is that the particle system is not respecting the rigid body animation, because if you look at the timeline here, these particles stop moving exactly where we have these keyframes, where the rigid body systems kicks in, so they stop following the object there. I've never run into this problem, so let's see what could, if there is a solution for that. Let's try use modifier stack and see. Doesn't help. I actually don't know how to fix this, because I've never run into this kind of problem. But yeah, since there are not too many particles, what we can do is just convert them into actual objects. So I would have preferred to have them just as objects. So let's see. One other way to do this is to just have the particles, to just have a separate mesh for the particles and a separate mesh for the cookie. But that seems like a lot of work, unnecessary. So it seems there is no option to have the objects follow. That's a bummer. Has anyone ever run into this problem? Because now let's just apply them, or let's just duplicate this object. I'll just scale it in so that it's not visible in render, and I can remove. Doesn't need this this setting. It doesn't need the material. I'm just going to parent it to this object, Control P, and for it won't need these keyframes and this rigid body system. It's just there to contain, or to actually I might have to give it that material. If I maybe just make sure that it's not rendered in the and for this we can remove the particle system. Now the particles follow the object. I think that's the only way we can achieve this, because I don't know any other way to. Yeah, so let's do this again for this other side. Just duplicate this. This is going to be our particle emitter. Go to the render settings, make sure that the object data settings, make sure it's not renderable, and then make sure it's parented this side, Control P, keep transform, and then select this other one, make sure it doesn't have a particle system. Now, okay, make sure that this inner version, this with the particles, is not a rigid body. And has no keyframe animation. Okay, now we also need this layer of chocolate on this side. It shouldn't be too hard. Just duplicate it. You don't even need to move it around. Just parent it to this side, the second side as well. And now we have that. So let's go in and look at the particles exploding. Let's see. Those are very, very easy. We can just use a particle emitter. I'm just going to make it in this cone or in this shape here, like that, so that particles can be ejected from different angles like that. Yes. Doesn't have to be rendered, but it does need a particle system. So emitter, then yeah. We need to render the chocolate pieces we had, which should be this object here. We need to scale them up, randomize, then turn on rotation, dynamic, angular momentum. We can turn off gravity for the particles. That is nice idea, but how will you hide the render? Hide it in render. They're already hidden in the render. You mean this here? I just have to go into here and just turn off that. And now if I hit F12, it won't be rendered. You can see they're not being rendered. You just need to increase random scale here. and we want to start emitting these particles at around here. So at frame 8, emission should start at frame 8 and end, because we don't want more particles to be rendered after that. So, and those are too many, so let's try 500. And actually what I can do, just increase the lifetime to about the lifetime of your keyframes. 500 is still a lot of particles. Maybe let's try 200. And they're just going in a linear direction, they're just moving in a linear direction. So what we can do is add some turbulence. So empty, let's add a force field turbulence. It seems that that turbulence is also affecting the hair particles. So what we can do, we go to that hair particle systems, and under the field settings we can turn off turbulence. Now we can also select those particles and make sure you give them a small mass so that they can be easily affected by the particles. So I'm going to give them a mass of 0.1. I think it will be better if you force field. You mean if I add a force field? Yeah, so okay, so now it seems that our turbulence has a really large force. So let's try to. We can also add in flow, play with the size a bit, maybe add in some noise. Okay, so flow reduces the speed of the particles. Maybe we can also give them, these particles, increase their velocity. So if we go to normal, sorry, to this, we can play around with some, even randomize the velocity just a bit. Now let's start frame 2. And what we can do is also just parent this object. Actually, it's just about tweaking now the animation to see what gives us better results. And this can be given a collision property. Let's see the animation here we have. So for them, they have fewer particles with larger variation. So let's try. I think what we can do is have two particle systems here. but the others, the second particle system can have smaller particles but many. So we can reduce this to be really small but many particles. So let's try 500 for this. I don't like the turbulence here. This turbulence shouldn't be that high, and these particles should have some gravity, some gravitational force, just a little bit. Thank you. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name. I can't read whatever language that is, but thank you. And I think we might also want to increase the normal velocity, something like, and maybe duplicate this to this side, and this time we can have that be parented to that. Maybe we can also have these cookies have some gravitational force. Just a little bit. Now we can also go to the rigid body settings and change their mass to a smaller mass so that they are affected by the turbulence as well. I want to have some details in the bump maps here, smaller details from the bumps, so let's find that. So we can add this into here. Maybe make this a bit reflective. I don't want the light, I want the light to be a bit more focused. So we can play with that. these. So I'm just tweaking the animation a bit here. Just making sure that everything works as intended. And, so if you want to slow down the speed of this, of the cookies, that is very simple. You just have to go to the rigid body system and play with the speed here. So if I increase this, let's see, it's a bit faster. It doesn't seem to affect anything here, so let me try animating it. Okay. Yeah, my computer just froze after doing that. I think it doesn't want me to do that. Maybe that's okay, that seems to be at too high a speed, so we need to just slow it down. Okay, where do I find this? Okay, just slow it by animating this value. Now for the particles, I'm not really sure how you can slow the animation for those. Let's see, number, source. I thought there might be a value here that you could use, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Under velocity, under physics, there is nothing there either. So I'm not sure how you would slow down the animation for the particle system. You could use a drag force to slow down the particles, but if you wanted to speed them up further, then you wouldn't be able to do that, because that means that when you use a drag force, you have the particles just lose their momentum. Let's go back to this. I think see how you slow it down like that. Problem is there's no way to, the only way you can slow down the particles is by using a drag force. So let's see, drag. So I'm not sure what's happening there. I think Blender still has a lot of bugs, because now I'm not sure what's going on here. Things are just flying away for no reasons. And Blender has hung right now, so let me just end it with Task Manager here. So let's try again here. So now what we want to do is slow down the particles. Let's bring back the drag force and just animate the values before, because it's what is, I think when I added the drag force, that's when the bug started, but I'm not sure why. Let's just animate. Let's first turn the strength of the drag off and see if that will. Okay, you can see how it's slowing down the particles, but you want all the values to be 0. Okay, and then we can turn it on. You see, now that slows down the particles as well, but it doesn't seem to affect the rotation of the particles, the angular momentum of the particles. So I think you would have to first also go under the rotation. Make sure that I don't have any random rotation for those particles, because it doesn't look nice with that on. The particles seem to jitter for some reason. Let's see if we just turn on drag directly from the forces here. Also turn it on here. Still doesn't seem to affect the jitterness of the particles. Okay, that's an issue with Blender. I'm not sure how to fix. Oh, I think this jitter amount could be the problem. So let's try that, removing that. No, it's not the problem. So animating the drag doesn't really help slow down those particles, and I don't think there is a setting that would do that. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm adding this here. So